Hello, special beings. So, I'm really pleased to be connecting with all of you today. This is going to be a video for 1111, and please note that this is going to continue to be relevant for as long as we live, because this message is going to be multidimensional in nature for as long as we need it until you reconnect to your multidimensional nature. So, 1111. There are energies in effect right now that pertain to you, to all of us. Sealing portals. And I'm going to explain, I'm going to give you a thorough breakdown of what that means. Many of us have a tendency to be in a rinse and repeat cycle with certain behaviors, with certain mannerisms, with certain habits that we have that sometimes hamper us. And so what we want to do now is forge new pathways that will lead us to other timelines. The vision I'm getting now is like we're going to travel through these underground tunnels that we've never traveled through before, and then we're going to get spit out onto a whole new timeline. So imagine that, you throw your garbage out, it goes down the chute, and bloop, you pop out, you get spit out into a new timeline. But that's only going to happen successfully if you're willing to detox your old ways, if you're willing to starve your old patterns. And so you might be feeling a little deflated, or a little exasperated, or a little fed up. And that's because you're picking up on the shift that your guides are wanting to promote in you. I felt that way today. It was like, okay, I'm ready to finally tackle this thing that I've been putting off, to finally seal that portal and forge a new pathway or open up a new tunnel to a timeline that was always written in the stars for me. But I won't be able to enter that tunnel and get spit out into this new timeline unless I'm willing to relinquish my old ways. And they're not bad or good. So I want to remind you that you can't get this wrong, but you will usually be able to sense when you've played something out too much and you've quote unquote overstayed your welcome. So your guides are inviting you now, and they're also entreating you to rid yourself of these old ways so that you can welcome in the new. So, I went on a walk today, and my guides have been really adamant about me following the internal instructions that I receive. And oftentimes I don't, because I'm like, oh, but I already know what that's going to lead me to, so let me just go ahead and defy that. Let me just go ahead and go against that and object to it. And so the last few days I've been coming back to my practice. I'm always in my meditative practice, but again, we offshoot sometimes. But I've been coming back to the fundamental, the basic practice I had when I first awakened in 2011. So I'm walking, and then I hear my guide say, it's a whisper. So 1111 this month is going to be a portal where you really get to enhance or heighten that subtle realm, the angel whispers. And so I walked past a tree. There were many trees. And my guide said, go back and lean against that tree. And I'm like, and I tried to brush it off. But then I was like, no. I'm determined right now to follow those guidelines. And I did. And I went back and I leaned against the tree. And 30 seconds later, the sprinklers came on. And my guide said, you see, we need you to slow down. Well, step one, we need you to follow those whispers. And then we need you to slow down and wait for us. And the sprinklers were a 1111, they were a sign that the guides can only join us on this journey if we wait for them. But if you're always trying to outrun something that you've been in denial of, and you continually reinforce that pattern of outrunning or overlooking or avoiding, by reinforcing that pattern, you remove yourself more and more and more from that guidance system. So 1111, there are these interdimensional portals that we're being asked to open now, that we're being asked to activate, and other portals that we're being asked to close, to deactivate. This can be something as basic as you get on the phone with your mom or with a friend who's a like-minded individual, and you guys speak on a regular basis, and I know you'll be able to relate to this, but sometimes you get on the phone and you don't really have much to say, so you'll kind of pull a rabbit out of your hat that's really not significant in that moment, but just to strike up conversation. But you might have heard a very subtle whisper say to you, hey, don't talk about this, starve that pattern. And by way of doing so, you're going to enable yourself to open up these new byways and these new freeways in your consciousness. But what we tend to do is we default to what we're accustomed to doing. And so the guides are wanting us to bring our focus, to bring our attention to these different patterns that we have. Why is 1111 so significant? The reason it's so significant is because planet Earth right now, and I always used to say 1111 is a wink from the universe, because it is. But planet Earth used to wink at us because she was saying, I'm going quantum. Are you coming with? Or are you going to stay behind? Because I'm doing it. There is nothing that's going to stop me from ascending now. And so all of these years where you would see different signs and angel numbers, that was the universe winking at you saying, come on, come on, come on. And every time you'd see those numbers, whether it be 1111 or 22222 or 444, those were all, I want to say, catalysts that would allow you to synchronize with your higher self, to synchronize with the rhythm of the universal time grid, of this crystalline grid that we're anchoring. So planet Earth has rendered herself a multidimensional being. It's official. She's always been multidimensional, but she was killing time. She was observing us. She was collecting data. She was giving us a grace period or giving us some leeway or giving us wiggle room to really get acquainted with ourselves. And now she's at this place where she's like, I'm going. This is it. And that's why 2020, which is clear sight, is all about aligning with these energies of the 1111 and going, all right, this is happening. This is inevitable. We are going. We are moving towards this ascension as a collective. And anything that you're still harboring that isn't advancing you anymore has to be disposed of. I got another message today that we tend to get a little too fixated on camps sometimes, the Biden camp, the Trump camp. We get very fixated over the camps. But planet Earth right now is in the midst of shaking off all the fleas. For this video, let's just term them demonic fleas, or fleas that belong to an older matrix or to duality. And so these demonic fleas that are being shaken off by Mother Earth right now, through our assistance, of course, they're not on the camp of Biden or Trump. Because remember that insidious energies, they can take on different disguises and masquerade themselves as something that looks nice and neat or kind, just to pull you in, just to manipulate you. So I want to remind you guys that we are no longer in a linear reality. Nothing is as it seems. Nothing is black or white. So this is an unprecedented time because it's never happened before. Think of how much we've learned since the onset of this pandemic. There's been an immense acceleration with regard to our consciousness as a whole. And prior to this, there were people who were operating quantumly, but they were still dealing with people who were stuck in that dualistic box, in that binary mindset. And the reason why this is such a prolific time and also such a unforgettable time that's going to go down in history is because this 11/11, you're going to start to see, especially this entire month, you're going to start to see how nothing is black and white. Trump people aren't necessarily of the light. Biden people aren't necessarily of the light. Trump people aren't necessarily of the dark. Biden people aren't necessarily of the light, of the dark. These different insidious thoughts blend themselves, or they stir into everything. Veganism, athleticism, you name it. So we don't want to try to pigeonhole anyone. We're very good at generalizing, oh, Trump people are like this or Biden people. No, it's not black and white anymore. We can't make blanket statements like that anymore. Because everything is going to vary from case to case, from individual to individual. So we have our own fleas. And right now, there's a portal that's active. The 11/11 portal is almost like an express highway. I see it more as a time warp tunnel. So you can place yourself in this tunnel right now and fast track yourself like you never have before. Like you never have before. By pinpointing the different fleas that you have, right, that still feed into that negatively polarized reptilian consciousness that's trying to prevent planet Earth from ascending under the illusion that it can't be prevented anymore. So I should say under the delusion, because planet Earth she's off to the races right now. She's off to the races. So identifying what it is that you've been perpetuating in your life that can be likened to a flea that was neither good or bad, but your guides are trying to get you to move into a whole new dimensional space right now. And my guides have always told me is that unless I bring resolution to a frequency or to a loop, they'll be able to work with my matrix in that I'll still be able to expand by having other experiences, but in terms of my consciousness, I won't be able to elevate. So if I keep holding on to a frequency that's dissonant in my field, and I'm digging my heels in, refusing to neutralize that particular charge, then I'll still be able to go to travel in width and accumulate different experiences. So there's always expansion from that perspective. But because the higher levels hold more potent frequencies, I'm not going to initiate myself into those higher frequency bandwidths by means of holding on to that frequency. So right now you have to ask yourself, it's a time to get really real with yourself. And ask yourself, why does this keep showing up in my life almost every day? Why? And why is it that I always have the same response? And you can tell when there's a dissonant frequency in your field or discordant energy in your vibratory field because your heart closes and then you jump to its defense. This can be a relationship where you defend your boyfriend when other people are saying to you, hey, I really don't think this is a healthy and functional relationship, but you keep jumping to his defense or to your own defense and your heart closes. It could be that someone attacks you, which happens to me a lot, and then I feel like I have to jump to my defense to protect little Phil, who's just innocently playing and sharing insight. But my guides have said, you need to stop protecting little Phil. Okay, you need to stop protecting little Phil and allow this process to unfold. Allow that light in so that you and little Phil can become one and know that you are safe within this body. So it's a gap that's being bridged. So you're being asked right now to bridge the gaps, to seal the portals. Oh, this is something else I want to share. Whenever you get wound up, whenever you get worked up, and you repeat a pattern, you're opening portals, which then multiply. I just saw an orb. Which then multiply those energies that are inviting that discordance in your energy field. Every word, every thought that you speak, and you don't even have to speak it. That's how powerful thoughts are. Thoughts create reality. Every thought you have opens a portal, an interdimensional portal, through which other beings, non-physicals, that can be malevolent or benevolent, because as long as we're in this duality reality, there will be good and evil. There will be malevolent, benevolent. There will be black or white. There will be. That's duality. But now that we're moving out of that, now that we've crossed this threshold into the quantumness, into that multidimensional component, we have to really draw our attention to when it is that we open up a portal that has a corresponding quality to the feeling you had in that moment. So in other words, if you're talking to your friend on the phone, and you're bored, you're just trying to strike up conversation, and you talk about something that's really meaningless in that moment, you've just opened up a portal that's going to keep you stuck in that repetitive cycle. And the more of these energies that you invite in, the harder it can be to climb out of that hole. And remember, every thought you have opens a portal. So what we want to start training ourselves to do is okay, this active thought I'm having, is it opening up a positive portal? Meaning, is it opening up a portal of frequencies that will uplift me, that will catapult me? Or is it inviting frequencies that are very familiar to me, that I've been dabbling in and playing with, that are keeping me at a halt? So please attune your mind to those subtle whispers. And don't be stubborn. I'm very stubborn. It's actually what allows me to see so much. But it can also, there is a point where it starts to work against you. Because if it's stunting your own growth, if it's preventing you from undergoing that upgrade, then it's not helpful at that point. Then it's not progressing you as an individual. There is much more, you guys, that's going to be transpiring in the coming months. And I believe that this is why the guides are impressing upon us that we need to kind of move past whatever's keeping us in that loop in order to ready ourselves for what's to come. Because if a frequency in your field that's been with you for a long time has you transfixed, kind of like frozen, kind of like paralyzed, then how are you going to handle more potent frequencies when they arrive? It's going to jolt you. So we've had room to play. And now it's time to get down to business, okay? And to own up to the fact that, yes, this is something that triggers me. This is something that I've been keeping alive through my feeding it continually. And now I'm ready to go through the spiritual detoxification. And you might experience a dark night of the soul again. You might go through withdrawal symptoms. But as you go through that withdrawal, know that you are undoubtedly forging new pathways, opening up new tunnels that will lead you to a place that's unimaginable, that will lead you to your potential, that you have a birthright to see through in this life. Is it unfortunate that a lot of people never amount to their potential? Somewhat. But that's because they're stuck in denial. And they don't want to listen to people, let alone their guides. I know that so many of you are clicked in, tapped in enough to hear those whispers. Those soft, angelic whispers. Take heed and follow them. Don't dig your heels in and object to them. Because the wind is at your back, the universe is on your side. It is initiating you into the next phase of your life. It is trying to hand you back the writer's pen or the magician's wand so that you can write a new chapter, so that you can conjure new magic. These perpetual themes, these perpetual feelings that come up for you that are not pleasant, aren't there to harm you. They're not there to punish you. They're simply there to inform you and to instruct you as to how to reach that next milestone. So will you do it? Will you pluck up the courage and the bravery to say, I'm ready to at last deal with this thing? Because your mind's been convincing you that you're protecting your inner child, that you're going to bat for your inner child. But if anything, it's stunting your growth. So I love you guys. I hope this message helped. Remember to pay attention to the fleas. And as you starve these patterns, you're helping Gaia shake off those fleas. And that it's not black or white. That everything's turned quantum now. And so often we want to shove people in a box. We want to place definitions on things. And all that does is it energizes those fleas. So in the coming week, figure out which portals you need to seal. All right? And tune your brainwaves to what it is that you're doing that you've been convincing yourself isn't stopping you, but is stopping you. So I love you guys. If you'd like to donate, please go to feelgoodlife.com/donate. I really appreciate it. feelgoodlife.com/donate. If you have not subscribed, please hit subscribe and share with your friends and family. This is a big month. A lot's about to happen. Are you ready? Can you hold your own light? Or are you going to keep denying it by continuing to feed these old vicious cycles? Because all you're doing is you're rejecting yourself. All you're doing is rejecting the light that you are. And that light is coming back to you now. And it's needing you to open up the necessary portals for it to come back to you. Much love.